Fasten your seatbelts for an all areas access conversation spanning a decade inside Formula One with none other than former Haas F1 team principal Gunther Steiner. Unfiltered Live is an event no Formula One fan, hell, no racing fan should miss. The star of Netflix's smash hit docuseries Drive to Survive will take you on a wild ride through his career in motorsports and his decade of working on the Haas team. And it's for one night only. November 15th, Unfiltered Live at the Cadillac Palace Theater. Tickets at BroadwayInChicago.com. Today on CityCast Chicago, we have talked a lot about Operation Midway Blitz over the last few weeks. But let's hear from some of the people in the neighborhoods most impacted by ICE and Border Patrol in the streets. It's Thursday, October 30th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. I'm here with producer Michelle Navarro. Michelle, welcome back to the mic, my friend.
Hey, Jacoby.
Michelle, you live on the Southwest side. You was born and raised on the Southwest side. And a lot of these are primarily Latino neighborhoods that are being heavily targeted right now by immigration agents, whether they are pulling up in unmarked cars, whether they're showing up in force and in numbers. And you really wanted to get out and hear from people who have been living this for the past several weeks. Where exactly did you go?
Yeah, I was at the back of the yards neighborhood for a street vendor crawl, which was organized by a nonprofit org called Corporate Pero Latino. This is like a professional development and philanthropic org. And we met at Back of the Yards Coffee House on 47th Street on a Saturday morning. And the plan was to meet there and to walk along 47th Street. And 47th Street, for those who don't know, is kind of like Back of the Yards Main Street. The whole strip is filled with local shops, local restaurants, and then also plenty of street vendors all along the street. And so the goal of this was to walk down Back of the Yards, a neighborhood that has been, very impacted by the presence of ICE has been in the neighborhood multiple times a week. And so the goal of this was to walk down 47th in community and to buy out some street vendors and also to go into these small businesses, a lot who have been struggling, just like a lot of businesses on the Southwest side.
For so many people who are listening, they have probably seen like the worst of the videos that have been posted, them like ripping people from cars, breaking people's car windows, throwing tear gas out. For people who are like living in these neighborhoods every single day, what does the ICE and Border Patrol presence look and feel like day to day? Is it these sort of constant explosions between the neighborhood and these agents?
From talking to residents, we've seen online the ways where there's people getting yanked out of their homes, people getting yanked off the street, walking to work. We look at areas like Little Village and Pilsen, which are kind of marked as these like port of entries for immigrants, particularly Mexican immigrants. And so they're very well known to be these kind of port of entries. At the same time, though, Back of the Yards and all these other kind of smaller neighborhoods like Brighton Park are usually a little quieter. You don't get a lot of outsiders coming into the neighborhood. And so these are the places where a lot of people are being detained and like no one can have a clue.
Yeah, I brought that up because it's like from video to video, G, the car is never the same. And obviously, once they hop out all camoed up, it's very clear who has been roaming around. Let's jump in. Let's hear from one of the attendees you spoke with.
Hi, my name's Raquel. I currently live in the Pilsen neighborhood. ICE has impacted our daily lives in the sense that now when we go outside to do any activities, whether it's hanging with our friends, hanging with our family, or just even going for a walk, we're impacted with the idea that, is it safe to go out? Is it safe to meet up? Is it safe to come together in a neighborhood that's always known to be vibrant and welcoming? Pilsen has always been an area where, there's a lot of Latinos, but then there's also a lot of young Chicagoans and young people from all over the world that come here to explore and see the beautiful artwork and the beautiful community that is there. And now it's like, you have to be almost like watching your back or watching out for each other to make sure that everybody's safe. And in our neighborhood, we've organized a book club where we meet weekly to discuss books. And I think one of the major impacts is like now we've gone from discussing books and discussing each other's lives to like sharing stories or guidance on how to protect yourself, like if you encounter ICE, or if you ever are accidentally or purposely like tear gassed when you're out and about. And I think that's one of the biggest impacts that I've seen in our day-to-day is like we've gone from talking about like day-to-day stuff to like how to protect yourself out in the neighborhood.
Have you witnessed an ICE raid or been near one? What did you hear? What did you see? And what did you feel?
So personally, I have not, but I have a lot of close friends that unfortunately their communities and their neighborhoods have been impacted. It's very nerve-wracking to understand and just realize like how close all these attacks have been. Like I could be home and an attack is happening like 2 blocks over, not even 2 blocks, like 2 streets over. And it's like when is it my turn? You know, when am I gonna unfortunately walk up on, you know, somebody being detained unlawfully and masked men? And, you know, is it gonna be one of my friends that one day is like on the news being detained? And it's really nerve-wracking to have to think about that.
It's very tough talking and hearing from community members who, you know, for generations have already been dealing with profiling, the fear of being deported. Chicagoans have been profiled by CPD. But like when you listen to people describe this moment, it, at least, you know, for us, it is so clearly different than the interactions that we've had with law enforcement, even as I've been somebody who has sort of been out protesting when the protest was tear gas. I've been profiled by police officers. I've seen deportation arrests happen to people in Chicago before, but it's so very clear when you listen to people that like the fear they feel now is so very different.
Yeah, I think about when I was younger and how a lot of my aunts would tell me stories about, you know, them being at a laundromat and having to abandon their clothes in the washing machine because they heard that the migra was coming. And it was felt like such a story of the past where you would never imagine that something like that would be happening in Chicago. That, I don't know, I think a lot of people can relate, especially a lot of children of immigrants have heard these stories of what their parents had to go through, and to kind of see that in our own neighborhoods, it's chilling for sure.
Can you ever remember a time where your family members, community members were as on alert as they are now?
I think I was too young. I think I was too young to even comprehend. I remember Nickelodeon had a special about families in hiding. And that, like, I remember I watched that and I couldn't sleep that night. I was probably like 8 or 9. I mean, we definitely did feel this at the start of Trump's first term. I remember, you know, there was this mass call, these massive deportations as well, but nothing like this, right? Where people it's allowed to be racially profiled out in the street, out in your home, walking to school, walking to work. And so it's difficult to have to, 1, process this, and 2, prepare yourself, and at the same time prepare others that you love, because you never know when someone can get picked up, someone that you know can get picked up.
Michelle, you also talked with another person from Pilsen.
My name is Natalia, and I'm from the Pilsen neighborhood. It's such a struggle to see other human beings attacking human beings just because they don't have a certain paper or they don't have a certain document. These documents are something that we've created, and it's unfortunate that people are chasing a check, they're chasing money in order to, you know, for their livelihood or whatever. But I feel like just like seeing people attacking other people is just not, how can you grab somebody and throw them to the ground and just think that they're less because they don't have the documentation that somebody above has said that they should have?
Obviously, in that clip, Natalia, when she's talking about people chasing the bag, she's talking about the immigration, the Border Patrol agents who we've seen I don't know if you have, I've seen increasingly the commercials that are trying to ask people to come work for customs and immigration, whether it's directed at law enforcement. I see the propaganda on X where it's like, hey, it's very much giving Uncle Sam like your country is asking you to serve, to come protect the homeland.
Yeah, we
Get
want
out here
you
protecting it. Yeah, we will give you, these sort of, so you'll get signing bonuses. You can get loan repayment for school. And this is one of the things America is very good at. The ruling class politicians are very good at pitting working class peoples against one another. Whether you are thinking the poor white farmer being incentivized into the brutality against enslaved Africans, you see it in the civil rights movement. You see it now as we've seen over 50,000 new arrivals and migrants come to the city. Once again, we watched how sort of propaganda can be leveraged to pit two communities fighting for resources against one another. And so, yeah, it's you kind of being played against ourselves in that respect.
I mean, you mentioned how the advertisement specifically, targets Chicago police officers. Something that Natalia mentions is, the talk about papers. It's a good reminder that, being in this country without proper documentation is a civil offense, not a criminal one. And I think that's always it gets a little bit lost in the weeds, right? Because people want to say, oh, well, we want people to pick up criminals. And I think people have this conversation of just like, oh, I did things the legal way. And it's this larger discussion of who gets to be here and who doesn't, and through what forms. And, my dad, he got papers. He just got kind of lucky just because of the time that he was here. He came during Clinton, and he had an employer that vouched for him. And like, it just happened to perfectly align for him. Whereas if he had came maybe a few years after he did, it would have not been the same case. A lot of immigrants in Chicago that are documented, it's sometimes just opportunity and luck and the administration that you come under.
November is Homelessness Awareness Month. Now, most of us know homelessness is a problem in Chicago. We see our neighbors sleeping in parks and bus stations, and we want to help. That's why in November, Deborah's Place is focused on raising awareness about what actually works. Permanent housing, not just overnight shelter, paired with supportive services. At Deborah's Place, that model, permanent supportive housing, has helped thousands of women find paths towards stability. When we can provide housing paired with necessary resources, our communities become safer and more livable for all Chicagoans. So learn more about events in the community and how you can support Deborah's Place at deborahsplace.org. If we said it once, we said it 1,000 times. It's spooky season, y'all, but what doesn't have to be so damn scary are your old drafty windows. Not if you replace them with Window Nation. Window Nation offers top quality replacement windows with a lifetime warranty. And if you act now, you can make no payments for 2 years. No, for real, no payments, no monthly payment, no down payment, and no interest until 2027. And if you're looking for high quality, affordable windows for your home, then Window Nation is the place to be. Get started on your free estimate before October 31st to save big on your replacement windows. Get in before Halloween. Head to windownation.com. Michelle, everyone's experience has been different. One of the people you spoke with was nearby when agents clashed with protesters a couple of weeks ago.
My name is Vicky. I am from the east side of Chicago. It's a small neighborhood in the south side. The other day, there was an attack where actually I almost got hit by an ICE SUV as they were chasing someone down the street. They had no sirens, no lights or anything, so it seemed like it was something out of the movies. And when I got home, I checked, Facebook, and I noticed that a lot of my neighbors like 5 blocks away were like on a standstill with against ICE, and they were literally half block away from my grandma's house where my dad was visiting. My dad was born in Mexico City, but he's been in he's been in the United States for over 40 years. So he's a legal U.S. citizen now. But even he was afraid to leave the house as a brown person and someone that speaks Spanish fluently. As I was watching it on Facebook Live, I felt helpless because I'm, working from home, but what can I do? And in a way, it was nice to see the community get together and not not just sit around and watch them take someone away, because they're human beings. They don't deserve to be treated this way, and it's just really sad. I feel like we're living in another world, and it's not even, it's not real. It just doesn't feel real to me. So every time I drive home, every time I drive anywhere, I'm just like on the lookout. I feel like, I could get targeted at any time. I don't speak Spanish fluently, but I'm still a brown person, and I just feel like they're just picking up anyone that looks at them strangely, and they just feel like they have the right to do whatever they want. So it's a little afraid. I'm a little afraid. Also, my daughter goes to school out of another state, so she's in college by herself, and she's texting me all the time saying she's afraid that she's gonna get picked up by ICE when we're legal citizens. We're born and raised here, and so it's just scary every day. It's just scary.
Vicky was referring to this clash that happened in the East Side a couple weeks ago, where federal agents chased a car and then intentionally rammed into the car in a maneuver. A crowd came out. The agents hurled tear gas, pepper balls, and smoke grenades. A 15-year-old boy was slammed to the ground and taken for 5 hours. The Department of Homeland Security said that he threw an egg at the agent.
We mentioned a lot of different neighborhoods so far. The last person you spoke with was Myra. She's actually from the area where the vendor crawl was happening.
So I grew up in Back of the Yards, and I'm here every day. And last week, I was here at El Grano Coffee, and on the corner, ICE was, in the corner of 47th and Walcott, ICE was detaining people, and I had no idea. Thankfully, people in the businesses were sharing videos, and we were able to then talk to a man who witnessed everything and get information. But it's happening so often that if you're not paying attention, you can completely miss folks' lives being uprooted and detained, and civil rights being chipped away at. ICE was detaining individuals walking down the street, asking if folks had papers. That is a almost daily occurrence here in Back of the Yards, and I know folks have been talking a lot about ICE presence in Little Village, the Mexico of the Midwest, but Back of the Yards is getting decimated. Street vendors have been detained. There isn't enough foot traffic. Businesses are closing. There's a business that closed on 47th since the ICE presence here, and it's devastating. I mean, the moral impact aside, the human rights issue aside, the economic devastation to this community that's already a working class community is going to take years to recover, years after Donald Trump is out of office, and it's harmful. And then one last thing, that it isn't lost upon me that in areas like Little Village, when we saw ICE attack and egregiously attacking young people, attacking and detaining U.S. citizens, the local leaders stood up immediately. You had Alderman Mike Rodriguez come together with, Congressman Chuy Garcia and several other elected leaders to denounce what was happening. And the alderman here, Alderman Raymond Lopez, is not standing up and defending his community. In fact, he's doing quite the opposite. He is tweeting about how we should be enforcing and we should be encouraging ICE in these communities to, allegedly get criminals, but we know they're not getting criminals. We're getting working class people. And he welcomed Tom Homan, the White House border czar. So it's not lost upon me that when you don't have leaders standing up to this federal overstep of authority and powers, you are going to have incidents like we're seeing in Back of the Yards where ICE is here on the regular taking people.
I appreciate Myra bringing up Alderperson Raymond Lopez, because not every person who lives in Chicago feels the same way. Some people have welcomed these operations, have cheered on federal agents, and Lopez has acknowledged that. Actually, I want to read his words straight up, because he talked about feeling heartache and frustration for the communities on the south and southwest sides of Chicago. And, you know, his very next words are, the streets we walk on to take our children to school, to the park, or out for dinner are being overrun with federal agents who are on a mission to arrest violent criminals in Chicago. Like, he's immediately painting the situation in the streets as sort of a like mission related, and, you know, discusses that much of the blame should be laid at the feet of city leaders for failing to cooperate with ICE. In his view, if Chicago amended the Welcoming City Ordinance, allowing CPD to work with immigration enforcement to go after, once again, these so-called violent criminals, then basically the feds wouldn't have to resort to this blanket tactic. So he's saying Chicago is at fault. I don't think changing the Welcoming City Ordinance was going to keep Greg Bovino and Tom Holman and Kristi Noem and these agents from targeting day laborers, and as such, everyday Chicagoans who are out there protesting what they see with their eyes. He has called on the federal government to grant amnesty to immigrants with clean records, with no criminal records. But again, he has previously supported the idea of bringing the National Guard to Chicago to deal with public safety, and has said he has spoken directly with Border Czar Tom Holman.
Myra says that a lot of residents are going to continue to push for the protection of their neighbors. I think something that I really appreciated about attending this street vendor crawl, you know, not only was I around other South and Southwest siders like me who really just wanted to support a community that has been targeted and is in fear. It was more so the idea that everyone was like really happy to be there. People that came with their whole book club groups, there's people who came with friends, there's people who brought their children. And so in a way, I think we're constantly being reminded that Chicagoans, we're going to continue to try to protect our neighbors. Myra told me something that I really liked.
I'm so proud to be a Chicagoan. I'm so proud of the way that the community's coming together to protect our own. I've been thinking a lot about government and its role in protecting people. And it's moments like this where you really see like collective power coming through. We don't have time to wait for elected officials, for leaders, for government to save us. Like, people are standing up and saving themselves. And so just so proud of Chicago and the way that folks are resisting and protecting each other. And I'm really glad to be back home.
Hey, I want to give a huge thank you to our producer, Michelle Navarro. I appreciate you going out, talking to people in your neighborhood, and bringing those conversations back to us.
Thanks, Jacoby.
Before we get out of here, there are plenty of other organizations that are putting on these street crawls. Street Vendors Association of Chicago and Cycling Solidarity are having a street vendor bike tour where they ride out at a nice little chill pace and try to hit various street vendors. This Sunday, they are meeting at the Chinatown Plaza at noon, so pull up on them. I know we ain't got to the weekend yet, but I'm already looking forward to next Monday. Tiger Moon Market is going to be at the Ramova Theater from 7 to 10. A collection of 30 plus award-winning Asian American restaurants and chefs. If you're going to be in a different part of town, maybe up in Lincoln Square, then consider checking out Welcome to the Show, hosted by my boy Derek Bish. Next Monday, they are going to have Jeffrey Bear in the building. So it should be a good time, y'all. As always, we appreciate you for listening and reading. We're going to be back bright and early tomorrow. I will not be in the host chair. Our executive producer, Simone Ali Sayed, is going to be carrying you through. But we got Tina Sfondelis and Alex Nicken in the building to look back on the week. So it's going to be a great episode. I will talk to y'all bright and early next week. Peace.